Story 1. My girlfriend rejected my proposal because it didn't meet her expectations. For context, my girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and over Thanksgiving weekend I took her on a week-long trip to Hawaii with the intention of proposing to her. I even asked her parents for their blessing and showed them the ring a couple days before we left for the trip. We have talked about marriage before and we've both agreed that we want to marry each other, so the idea of it is nothing new and actually a frequent topic. The issue is that she wanted a grand wedding proposal similar to the ones you might see on TikTok, Instagram. Big "Marry Me" letters on the beach, rose petals on the ground, lights, mariachi, etc. I was absolutely on board on doing that for her if it made her happy, but that was something to be planned at a beach back at home since I wouldn't have the resources to plan it for a trip to somewhere we've never been, especially because we booked everything as a last-minute vacation just 5 days prior, ironically after she sent me videos of people vacationing in Hawaii. I believe this would be a great opportunity though. I planned to propose to her on the day we arrived. I carried the ring in my pocket all day waiting for a good opportunity to ask her, knowing it wasn't going to be a grand proposal like she had hoped, but I thought because of the circumstances she would be happy. However, we had some completely unnecessary arguments and I decided to postpone because I didn't want to do it after a bitter day. Second day there, we had booked a reservation to go parasailing. I didn't want to risk losing the ring, so I left it back at the hotel. We didn't get back to the hotel until 5 p.m., and we started getting ready to go back out in the city. By this time it was already starting to get dark. She said before that she would want a sunset proposal, and knowing that I couldn't organize any of the other things she had in mind for a proposal, the sunset was the only thing I had. I missed my chance on that, but we still went out to dinner and drinks. We came back to the hotel afterwards because she was tired. I was too. It was an eventful day. I let her rest for a bit and around 10:30 I convinced her to go on a night walk with me at the beach. This was when I planned to propose to her. We got to the beach. The city was very much still awake and the lights of the buildings and streets combined with the bright moon illuminated the ocean beautifully. We stood there hugging and kissing, both knowing it was a beautiful and intimate moment. I started telling her how much I love her and how I want to be with her my entire life, etc. As I started to get on my knees and reach into my pocket for the ring, she stopped me. "I hope you're not about to propose to me right now. This isn't what I expected." My heart dropped. I got back up and stood speechless before starting to walk back to the hotel. I was in no mood to talk about the situation and told her we should talk about it tomorrow. We talked about it the next day and she insisted on me doing it again, but this time, the right way during sunset. I tell her I can't do that because she rejected me already. She tells me she didn't reject it, just simply it wasn't how she would have wanted it to happen. We spent the next 4 days in Hawaii in a very tense state, but we had to deal with it until we got back home. We lived together and for the first night she went to sleep with her parents. Now she has come back but I don't want to be home with her there. What can be the outcome of the situation? I obviously didn't want this to happen during our vacation, but I can't see it any other way. Is this a valid reason for me not wanting to be with her anymore? I also don't think it's right for me to redo the proposal. Update. So we had another conversation about it once she came back home from her parents. She's still adamant that I failed to meet her expectations. Admittedly, I understand I didn't do any of the things she had visualized it to be. I want to emphasize that we're young, and the proposals she's seen on social media are nothing but trends. These proposals have become popular in maybe the last year or two. Prior to that she's told that she wants an intimate proposal and especially away from the public. People are telling me I'm wrong because I knew exactly what she wanted and didn't do it. She also tells me that a proposal is solely about the female and what she wants. I think that's bullshit. I know I've told her that I was on board with her fantasy proposal, yet I changed my mind about that. I didn't want to plan this huge thing at my hometown beach just for the spectacle of it. I preferred to do it in a way I knew we'd both enjoy. In Hawaii especially. Something that really bugs me is she says that I made the trip seem like just another trip, nothing crazy or out of the ordinary. This is literally our first ever vacation flight together. The same night that happened, we had brunch, went parasailing, and had a wonderful teppanyaki dinner. Am I selfish for changing the whole proposal up without consulting her? I don't understand why some people say I'm selfish for not doing what she wanted. I still did something that objectively should make any woman ecstatic. I think my focus now is shifting from wondering if it's okay for me to break up with her for turning me down, to wanting to break up for her ungratefulness in general. Another reason why she said it wasn't up to her expectations was because we were both dressed casually. She wanted me to give her prior notice that something special was going to happen by telling her to get glammed up. Note: to the people asking why I couldn't propose the next day at sunset, another requirement for her proposal was for her dog to be there, which she told me that same minute after telling me it's not what she expected. She absolutely adores this dog and has always told me she wants him to be ring bearer at our wedding. Sure thing, if it makes her happy, I really don't mind. Issue is she also wanted that to be the case for the proposal, which I was absolutely unaware of, and obviously we didn't take the dog with us. She was just too focused on how she wanted the proposal rather than just being excited about being with me. Update 2. We had a breakup talk. My girlfriend has always been a bit self-centered. I've known that and have been able to put up with it. About 4 months ago she started having therapy sessions. I don't know how long they last, what days they are, or what they talk about. I do know that she has become an entirely different person. She's been more compassionate and cooperative with me, the things I've always wished for her to be more. This caused me to be fully ready to commit to a life with her, hoping this new mentality is permanent. Anyway, she talked to her therapist and told me that she asked her one question. Do you like surprises? She tells her of course she does. She explains to her that as her boyfriend, I most likely know that, and was trying to do something heartfelt and unscripted. No mariachi, glamorous dress or big letters, just us two. She further tells her that if she truly felt in her heart that she wants to live a life with me, all of the other superficial stuff shouldn't matter. She's apologizing to me, telling me she really regrets doing that and assuring me she would have said yes anyway. My biggest regret is I'll never really know what she would have said, though in my gut I'm not 100% sure she would have said yes. Her first thoughts when that was happening was completely dismissive of me and disrespectful, something that for once I feel like I can't take anymore. I'm standing my ground, telling her I've swallowed my pride way too many times in the past, and we should go through with it. I'll be sleeping on the couch, she'll be packing her things tomorrow and going to live with her parents. Story 2. My stepdaughter died 4 weeks ago and I caught my husband and his ex-wife in our bed. My stepdaughter Becca, 14, died 4 weeks ago. I've been in her life since she was 7 years old, we were extremely close. My husband Derek, 40, his ex-wife Sam, 38, and I, 35, get along very well. There has never been an issue in the 7 years that I've been with Derek. Sam has always been kind to me, she didn't even care that Becca called me mom too. Right after Becca's passing, Sam had so much anxiety and depression that she was unable to be by herself. She has no family besides us, so we invited her to stay with us. Sam hardly leaves the house, she mostly just sleeps in Becca's room, which is completely understandable. I always tell her that I'm here if she needs me and that I want her to take her time with grieving and that there is no pressure to go back to her home. Today I needed to run some errands, so I asked Sam if she'd like to join me to get out of the house a little bit, but she declined and said she'd rather just stay at the house and sleep. I told Derek that I was leaving and that I would be back in 2 hours. He works from home. I also told him to check on Sam every once in a while, and maybe try getting her to eat something. After stopping at the post office, I realized I forgot my library book that I needed to return, so I went back home to get it. As soon as I walked in the door, I heard moaning coming from mine and Derek's bedroom. I immediately knew what was happening, and my heart completely broke at that moment. I wasn't completely sure what to do, but I ended up deciding to confront them, so I walked to the bedroom and opened the door and began yelling at them both. Sam started having an anxiety attack and ran to the bathroom while Derek kept apologizing profusely. I asked him what the hell was happening. He told me that he made himself and Sam some lunch and they began talking about Becca, and shared some memories. And then Sam ended up kissing him and he didn't pull back, and then it ended with them in our bed. They're begging me to understand that it was just grief that caused them to become intimate and that they both made a mistake. I don't know what to do. I love this man. And I love Sam. I'm heartbroken that they did this to me and put me in this position. I feel so stuck. Update 1. I decided that I'm filing for a divorce. I can't ever trust Derek again. It sucks because we had an amazing relationship, I thought. He's always been great, so this was a complete shock to me. Last night, Derek came over to talk. He confessed a lot. Turns out it wasn't their first time having sex like most people thought. They've been having sex since 3 months before Becca died. I am completely shocked and heartbroken. Sam also reached out last night and thanked me for everything I've done for her, and told me she was sorry. I didn't respond. I blocked her. I did so much for Sam and considered her a friend, so this hurts a lot, more than I can handle. This is all too much. As hard as this is gonna be, I need to leave Derek and cut them both out of my life. I am ready to do so. I am done. Also, some people are saying I deserve this because I should have known better than to let Sam into our home, around Derek. But, you need to understand that I'm a giving person. I trust people more than I should. I truly thought Sam was an amazing person. I know it's unusual to become friends with your husband's ex-wife, but it's just how it went for us and I shouldn't be blamed for what happened. Thank you to everyone who commented nice things and for the kind messages. You've all been helpful during this insanely difficult time. I appreciate it. Update 2. I'm getting lots of questions about some things, so I figured I'd answer a few of them. 1. Have I told anyone about what happened besides my mom? Yes, I told a few friends and some family members. Most of them are supportive of my decision and aren't speaking to Derek. 2. Where is Derek staying? Currently, he's staying at a hotel. Our friends refuse to let him stay with them. He's lost a lot of people due to his awful decisions. 3. Has he tried fighting me on getting a divorce? Yes, he begged me not to file for divorce, but when I told him I needed him to just let me go, and that I was too exhausted to fight him on this, he let it be and agreed to getting a divorce. 4. Why isn't Derek staying with Sam? He told me he didn't want to continue to hurt me, so he told Sam he was done with her for good. And that they have no reason to speak to each other anymore. I have no idea if that'll last and if they'll just end up together, but I truly don't care what they do anymore. I just want peace. 5. What was Derek's excuse for cheating? He told me that they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. Disgusting of them both, I know. Story 3. She left and came back. I, male, 24, dated my ex, female, 24, from ages 13 to 21. 8th grade until college graduation. Let's call her Lily. Lily left me after she got into an Ivy League grad school in September 2016. See link to original post above. I was in shock and in some ways still am. She started contacting me again in early November 2016. I ignore it. She showed up unannounced at my apartment, having driven 300 miles from her grad school to where I now live and work. She apologized and tried to reunite. I built up walls already and told her politely no thanks, despite desperately wishing we were still together. I was so broken and sad that her arrival at my apartment enhanced the fantasy that maybe we could work it out. After all, I spent my formative years loving this person and yearned for her. She was my whole world still. I call Lily and ask to meet again around Thanksgiving since we will both be back in our hometown. We meet, and after I ask specifically, Lily admits she slept with someone. I reply that I'm not interested in reuniting. We both go home grieving. Having grown up with Lily's parents and loving them as my own, I get Lily's mother to confess separately to me that Lily tried to contact her prospective new plaything after they slept together and the new guy told her to get lost, confirming my hunch that I'm Lily's fallback plan. Lily never admitted this to me, but she did later admit that when she left me she had already been asked out by this new guy and that she wanted to say yes, so she dumped me. The pain is too much. I block her on everything. She tries to make contact several times and I don't respond. My mother died mid-January 2017. When my father calls Lily's mother to share the news, Lily's mother tells my father that Lily is in a severe depression and has left grad school. I'm lonely and grieving and still in love with Lily, so I visit the day after my mother's funeral. By January, Lily has lost nearly 20 pounds, she was already thin, and is borderline catatonic. I go back to my apartment 300 miles away as conflicted as ever. She's in so much pain, maybe she loves me? Is the narrative that permeates my brain even today. I never took her back, but I never stopped yearning for her. It has been 2 years since all of this happened, and I still wonder if I made the right choice. I think I did, but I also have this tremendous amount of pessimism about people around me. I don't trust my judgment of character anymore when I realize the girl I believe to be an angel can abandon me and then come back and try to use me. I've still never met anyone as beautiful as Lily. At least on the inside. Lily and I have agreed to meet twice since then, and both times were extremely unpleasant. The first being a superficial show of who is more moved on, and the second was me expressing regret over wishing I was a better man throughout the relationship. The ex ended up going back and completing grad school, graduating on time June 2018. I still haven't replaced the hole in my life where Lily was. I push away people because I know they will hurt me. If a girl like Lily can cut me so deeply, the kindest soul I have ever met, then everyone else surely will. I'm still lost, and for all I know she is too. I know what she did is completely selfish and gross, but it can't overwrite all the good she did throughout my formative years. I am in no contact with Lily, but I love and miss her in my life. I'm wondering how to live life without her when even when I'm in bed with another woman, I miss the trust and level of connection I had with Lily. No one knows more about me. No one knows more about her. Story 4. AITA for breaking up a marriage plan due to his plans of making me a housewife and a bangmaid. I am 29, female, who has done well in life and is earning a six-figure salary. I own my home. I am a head nurse and working at a reputable government hospital. I have had a couple of boyfriends, but we couldn't marry due to some circumstances that were out of control. One moved out of the country and the other one's mom didn't like me and the community I belong to. We broke up because we didn't want long-term fights and we didn't see a nice future. He was the love of my life. Finally, I agreed to arrange the marriage setup now. And matched a guy. We have had years of courtship and fell in love. So the marriage was next year. Now this guy is super rich and his family and him started saying I don't need to work. And he will give me as much money to spend. He wants me to handle the household. Note we have multi-generational family homes. So his parents would have lived with us too. I told him it isn't possible for me. I worked hard to reach this level in my career. I told him I don't want to be his bed warmer and housemaid. I have immense respect for housewives. But I don't want to be one. His parents started being passive-aggressive. I ignored. Finally, a few days back, we had a huge argument during the weekend lunch at his house. His mom said today's girls are so tough and don't value family values. I disagreed. I value family a lot, but that doesn't mean I want to be like previous gen women who sacrificed everything to be seen as goddesses in society. I have seen my mom sacrificing so much. Which I don't want to do. I left after thinking for days. I told my parents this won't work. They were shocked and sad because it would cause a loss in the reputation of the family. But I stopped eating and they agreed after seeing my condition. We broke up. And his family is mad. That's how a girl from my background can reject a rich guy like their son. They tried to ruin my reputation. I made a public post on Insta and Facebook with a screenshot of chat, where I was being pressured to leave my job and now I have full support. Now they are calling me and my parents and threatening us, etc. I don't care. At this point, if a man has to come, he will. If he doesn't, I will adopt a kid in future. But I don't want to be someone's doormat. With this job, I have given myself and my family foreign vacations. Decent cars. I don't want to be at the mercy of some man. My only regret is that he could have told me from day one but made me fall for him and wasted a year. He said he found me attractive and so he went for me. I feel weird. Ida for breaking his heart and ruining his reputation. Edit. Some relatives are saying I am leaving a millionaire, but I don't want to be stuck in a golden cage. Update. Well, things took a U-turn. The day I made threat he tried suicide. He did send me a message that he loves me and his family pressure was the reason he wanted me to stay home. His mom and dad didn't like women working in the family. He said he never told it during courtship because he has fallen for me and didn't want to lose me. I told him it's okay and I blocked him. Then later he tried to commit suicide by hanging but his parents caught him. It became a mess. He survived but he only wanted me in hospital. I couldn't be this cruel. Spend the whole day and night. And we have had our heart-to-heart. His suicide attempt made me realize that how much I love him. He has decided to stay separate from his family and doesn't mind me working either. So we are not marrying with a grand celebration. We will do simple court marriage next month and shift to our abode, the house I own. We'll throw a reception with people we want. He will be discharged in a few days and shift at my home. His parents are apologizing to him and me. But I don't want to deal with them. My parents and siblings don't want it but I told them I want this. They said do whatever you feel like but don't cry later. I told them it is my cross to wear. I guess we are meant to be together. I hope I give you more news in month after our marriage and hopefully everything goes well. Story 6. I left my family behind after they betrayed me. I, male, 25, grew up in a pretty tight-knit family. I have a brother, male, 24, and sister, female, 22, and was very close to my parents, 52 and 50. Spending every holiday there most weekends during college. We grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis and all went to the University of Minnesota. A year ago if you would have told me where I would be today I would have laughed at your pessimism. But here we are. I met Stacy, female, 24, during my sophomore year of college and we dated until I proposed last December. She said yes and we were planning on getting married next summer and spending our lives in Minnesota. But in April my life fell apart. I came home early to find my brother in bed with my fiancée. I freaked out and left and kicked her out of our shared apartment. Days later she came back and said she had fallen in love with my brother over the years and that she was sorry but was where her heart was. She moved out and I blocked her and my brother. Initially, the rest of my family took my side and banned my brother from family events. I slowly began to heal. I had a work opportunity come up. My boss pulled me in and said that he had suggested I lead the office in Chicago. They are kind of a mess and the company wanted someone from headquarters to take over. I couldn't believe it, but I said yes. I never thought I'd leave Minnesota, but thought it was time for a change. This all happened in early November, and the plan was to move after Christmas. My plan was to tell the family at Thanksgiving and then spend Christmas one last time before moving. But of course, my ex and brother had to stick the knife in one last time before they left. When I showed up for Thanksgiving at my parents' house, there were several cars as the whole extended family came over, so I didn't even notice my brother's car. I entered the house and the first thing I saw was my ex and brother talking with my aunt. I freeze as my aunt calls for my mom to come in. My brother and ex won't look me in the eye. My mom and dad come in, greet me and ask me to sit down in the living room. I sit away from my brother and ex, but I see the rest of the family, including my sister, sitting closer to them. My mom starts explaining that what they did was wrong and terrible, but that she hates that the family is split. She says I need to work toward forgiveness. My ex and brother both started to apologize, but I put my hand up. I turned to my sister and asked her if she agreed. She had tears in her eyes but nodded. Asked my dad the same question. He said yes pretty firmly. I was alone. I got up and walked out. I heard a couple people yelling after me, but I didn't respond. I drove to a McDonald's. Ate a pretty shitty Thanksgiving meal and went through my options and decided cutting them off was my best bet. I had saved plenty. I didn't need them and they didn't know where I was moving. I blocked them all on my phone, but it was my parents' plan that I was on, so I turned the phone in the next week and got on my own plan. Doubled my cell bill, but it was worth it to get a new number. I blocked them on social media, and I told my boss that I wanted to move to Chicago early. Talked to the landlord of the apartment I was looking to rent, and he was happy to let me in early. I moved to Chicago on December 15th and my family had no idea. A few friends knew and it must have slipped because last night I got an Instagram DM from what I assume is my mom on a new profile asking why I would move without telling them, and that the family missed and loved me and that I needed to still make time for Christmas. I responded by saying that she only had one son now and that I was no longer family. I then blocked her new account and locked down my profile and other social media. I've been looking to change my last name as well. I've left that life behind and I'm excited to see what Chicago has to offer. Update. Can't believe it's almost Christmas again. I, male, 26, had a pretty terrific first year in Chicago. I'm dating a wonderful woman, changed my last name, and outside of one moment, have completely gotten my family out of my life. In January, one of my sister's friends, Jenny, female, 23, messaged me wanting to know if she was in the city and if I would help her move in and show her around. Now a smarter guy would probably have been able to figure out what was up, but she is very attractive, and so I thought with something other than my brain. It was the weekend after the New Year, and when I got to her place I could see my brother and father moving her stuff out of the U-Haul. I stopped, but my mom had been looking out and called out to me. Everyone stopped and stared. I rolled my eyes and walked away. They chased after me and tried to get me to talk to them. My brother and ex were crying, saying they felt terrible. My dad finally grabbed me by the shoulder and turned me around, telling me to stop being an ass. Before I even knew what I was doing, I punched him in the face and kept walking away. Other people in the street stopped and stared, and my family told me I went too far. None of it mattered. I kept walking. Once I was on the L, I messaged Jenny and told her what she did was cruel and to find someone else to show her around. Didn't expect to hear anything else from her. But to my surprise, I woke up 2 days later to a long message from her apologizing and saying she had done it as a favor for my sister. She knew what my brother had done and felt I deserved to live my life how I chose, but that my sister had been insistent and she felt like maybe she had missed something. She told me that after the punch, they walked back to her apartment and finished moving her in. She said she understands how I feel and thought I might like to hear the aftermath. Apparently my father and sister really haven't forgiven my brother and think my mom let him back in too soon. My brother and dad got on a nasty fight and Jenny asked them to leave because they were causing a scene. Jenny begged me to see her again and said she really felt bad and wanted to buy me dinner. I took her up on it. You'd also be naive if you knew Jenny, I promise. And luckily I'm naive. Jenny and I hit it off and have been inseparable ever since. We are meeting heading back to Minnesota so she can introduce us to her family for Christmas. She actually cut off my sister and has promised I won't have to see them at all. Story 7. I moved into my boyfriend's house and I haven't been able to sleep well for 3 weeks because he doesn't let me. I had a breakdown last night and broke a lamp. I'm going to stay in a hotel tonight. AITA? I moved into my BF's house, he owns, 3 weeks ago, and it's been really hard. We have been fighting a lot. Many of our fights are because he doesn't let me sleep. I work 9 to 5, so I have to wake up at 8. He works whenever he wants, so he doesn't have a set sleep schedule. I used to go to sleep from 11 to 11:30 p.m. prior to living with him. I compromised to 12:30 a.m., But there are nights he goes to bed 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. There is a master bedroom and a guest bedroom. I was sleeping in the master and he would go in and out disrupting me, so I have yelled at him. He tells me, "Give me 10 minutes and I'll be in bed." Hours go by, he is still not in bed, and making noises the kitchen or living room. He told me, "You can go to sleep without me." There is a lot of noise when he comes into the master and he says that's where all his things are there, so he needs to go in and out. I tried sleeping in the guest room, does not have a lock, but when I do so he comes into there and disrupts my sleep instead of just going in the master. I have only been getting 5 to 6.5 hours of sleep for weeks now, very broken. Yesterday evening I told him I have a doctor's appointment at 8 a.m. before work, so I have to be up at 6:30. I got ready for bed at 10 p.m. in the guest room and was watching TV on my computer with a plan to go to sleep at 11 p.m. I put a note on the door, saying, "I have to be up early, please be considerate." I fell asleep at 11:30 with my eye mask on, fan on for white noise, always use this, sleep podcast, and he came in 3 times while I was sleeping and woke me up. He was drunk, turned on the light, pulled up my eye mask. I begged him every time to let me go to sleep because I have to be awake early. Then he started making a lot of noise in the hallway, saying he was having 8 strippers over, making sex noises in the bedroom. I told him, "I'm leaving. I just want to sleep, why don't you let me sleep?" I was on my hands and knees on the floor crying and he said, I'm sorry. I was just playing, I'm a jerk." I told him I need to go get some sleep and my plan was to just sleep in my car. It was now 1 a.m., I left and he's calling me telling me he is sorry and he's in bed, "Can I come back and we can go to sleep?" I come back and he is not in bed. He is in the basement getting laundry. I said I want to go to sleep. I try to sleep again and he then comes in and starts cuddling me telling me he loves me and he's sorry. I asked him to come to my appointment with me tomorrow and he agreed. I said I have to go to the bathroom. I go pee and when I come out he is in the bathroom. 10 minutes go by and he's still in there. I start screaming at him to come, he says he's peeing. Then I go and open the door and he closes it before I can get in. He tells me he's taking NyQuil. I just freaked out. I went into the bedroom and pulled off everything on the dresser onto the floor. I then turned over the lamp nightstands, ended up breaking one. He pushes me onto the bed and there is a necklace that he said he can't find. He is freaking out and I'm scared, so I tell him I'll help him find it. We found it. It's past 2 a.m., and we go to sleep in the guest room. He is on my side, so I just go into the master and sleep there until my alarm goes off. I wake him up and he starts getting ready and he notices his front veneer is gone. It was there last night. He accuses me of taking it. I said I didn't. I tried to help him but I have to go to my doctor's appointment, so I said let's go and I'll help you find it afterward. He says he wants to find it, so he stays. On the way there he texts me, "You don't care about me, get out and leave me alone. You are one of the most selfish individuals I have ever met." I don't respond. Then he calls me saying he found it. I go to my apartment, get back home and I have to work from 9 to 5:30 p.m. today. I work from home, he is sleeping as I type this. I am going to get a hotel tonight and look into moving out this weekend. I feel horrible for throwing stuff on his dresser on the floor, but I can't take this constant lack of sleep. Aita? Update. Thank you to everyone for the responses and for opening my eyes to the reality of my situation. I feel as though I have been in a daze, doubting myself and questioning my own sanity. Absolutely do not recommend not sleeping. I logged off work early saying I wasn't feeling well. I checked into a hotel. Not the closest one because I think he may look for my car there first. Going to sleep now. Story 8. Wife just told me she is attracted to women after years of marriage. Part 1. So I'm talking to my wife, female, 30, yesterday, and she jokingly mentioned how our son, male, 3, is clearly going to be a ladies' man because he is constantly trying to find ways to snuggle and fondle boobs or butts. In response, I say of course, what guy doesn't? Heck, I even know many straight women and gay men who appreciate feeling some nice boobs or a good butt. She then tells me we can never be sure, however, because she's been attracted to women and if it's genetic he could be attracted to men too when he's older. Ersta was floored. We've been married for 8 years, known each other since elementary school, so we've had some pretty deep conversations. We've also had some very detailed discussions of what we're into, since we're both pretty big on communication. I can't help but feel like this is a huge secret she's been keeping from me. I realize this is selfish in a way, and I can't say I'm upset at her for it, but it's just such a shocking revelation. I had to pry, of course, when I realized she was serious, and she explained that she discovered it in high school, had a few one-offs with girls we both know, and has had a few crushes over the years but never really pursued anything, especially once we were together. I told her I couldn't believe she's kept this from me for so long. She said it's not something she's totally comfortable talking about, and I jokingly said, but think of all the fun we could have had in college. Which she laughed at and said, trust me, there were plenty of opportunities I was too scared to mention to you back then. I laughed it off and we went about our day, but now the curiosity is eating away at me. I don't want to pry more, because she mentioned how it makes her uncomfortable to talk about, but I know myself and there is no way I will be able to just let this go. Where the hell do I go from here? Edit 1. Fam, it keeps coming up, but please understand I'm not assuming she's bi equals threesomes. That's a stereotype I don't subscribe to. We've had that talk, she's made her requirements pretty clear for what that situation would entail, which I mentioned in a comment down below. I'm sorry to anyone I've offended, but that was not my intention. Edit 2. I've had to say this a few times, so figured I'd just add it to the post. I'm not concerned that she's cheated on me. We've always had good communication, which is part of why this is shocking to me, but I am happy she felt comfortable enough to reveal this part of herself, especially in such a casual and funny manner. Married 8 years but dating for over a decade at this point, we are not necessarily a new couple and we've had our fair share of tough conversations, but she is still the light of my life, along with our children. I trust her completely, and I feel it's reciprocated. I'm just really curious to learn more about this side of her that I didn't know existed. I'm sure there have been struggles I know nothing about, and moments where she maybe wanted to tell me something but hasn't. That's okay, I harbor no ill will towards her, in fact it's substantially the opposite. LOL. I just want to dig for more details in a compassionate way, because wow, I didn't see this coming. Edit 3. Some of y'all need therapy, holy cow. But it's Reddit, can't say I'm super surprised. Also, those of you that keep bringing up my 3-year-old and his thing with boobs or butts as a sexual thing, please go educate yourselves. Toddlers and young children finding humor in poking and fondling pretty much any giggly body part is totally normal. And the fact that we make jokes about it is just part of how we cope with this embarrassing phase. For some kids it's a hard habit to break, but for most kids it goes away as they learn more about personal space. I'm sure not all kids do it, but the scoreboard is highly in favor of those that do. Edit 4. Thank you to everyone who has given me input so far. I will keep reading comments, but I think I've settled on not mentioning anything until we have a moment alone. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, not sure, but I'm happy to post an update afterwards. Part 2. As for the update, it has been a pretty great weekend so far on our end. Took a trip to the beach with some family, and had a lot of fun. After reading through all the comments and finally deciding on how to bring up the conversation, however, she was actually the one to bring it up to me. LOL. We were taking a walk down the beach while the kids played with the family. The wife said she wanted to see the pier but the kids wanted to stay back building sandcastles with a couple of cousins, so we took advantage of a little alone time for a nice stroll. As we're walking along the shore, and not out of the ordinary, my wife mentions how pretty a couple of women looked that were just cutting in front of us from the water to the sand. She has always been a people watcher, and her mentioning a good-looking person or two while we've been together isn't odd, but now that I know she finds women more than just pretty, I saw this as my opening to touch on the subject. I asked her to hear me out for a moment, and proceeded to thank her for opening up to me the other day regarding her attraction to women. I also let her know that I was very curious about the opportunities she mentioned, but I understood if she just wasn't open to talking about them yet. I apologized for bringing it up again, but I told her that it's been on my mind since she mentioned it and she has a right to know my thoughts. She hugged me. And as she held me, she thanked me for not freaking out and said this has been one of the hardest things she's ever had to confess. She said she has been wanting to talk to me about it for years, but was afraid with the more time that passed the harder I would take it. She said this part of her in no way affected her feelings for me, that I'm still the love of her life and she's not looking to go off and explore her feelings, but that she would love to be able to talk to me about it as we normally do when I've seen an attractive woman or when she's seen an attractive man. I told her I was overjoyed we now had another thing in common to talk about, because yeah, women are beautiful and sexy and this opens the door for us to have more open conversations. She then said, "Hit me with all your questions." And I was unfortunately very eager. I started by asking for some background, like when did she first notice women in a sexual way, had she ever pursued a romantic relationship with a woman, etc., and she was brutally honest. LOL, I'm not going to go into detail, but essentially she said she's always felt a type of attraction to both men and women, since at least middle school. Due to upbringing, the attraction to women was always taboo, so she didn't really explore that until high school. She gave me some names of girls we knew, and I was so jealous. LOL. My wife bagged a few of the hotties from back in the day, Granted, she herself was one of them if you ask our former peers, and I couldn't wipe the stupid smile off my face the whole time she spoke. She then went into how once we started dating, she essentially tried to lock that part of her away because she didn't want to scare me off or want me to think she was cheating with her platonic girlfriends, but she did mention several instances where in college some of the girls we knew had approached her regarding some third-wheel opportunities with me involved. This is where she admitted she never told anyone. I'm the first person she's opened up to about it aside from random online forums. I told her I'm honored, and I confessed after she brought it up I too took my thoughts to Reddit. She told me she wasn't too happy about that at first, but she knows I was likely very safe about it and preferred that to me having asked someone we know in real life, because she's not ready to talk about this with anyone but me yet. I thanked her again for the vote of confidence, and swore this would die with me if she never told anyone else, but that she has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of if she ever decided to tell someone. She gave me a kiss, and by this time we had gotten to the pier and walked its whole length and were almost back down the shore to our family. She asked me to send her the link to the original post and to this one once it's typed up. I said of course. And then I told her we're playing a people-watching game, 1 to 10 with 10 being the hottest. Told her to start. She picked a woman at first and said 8, I agreed, then stared directly at her and said 10, and when she asked who, I said I'm staring right at her, which earned me a blushing smile and another kiss. Of course I'm going to brag about this babe, it was cute. Later that night, once the kids were down and she had read some of the previous post, she said she'd still be down for the threesome with another woman involved, but she agreed with one of my comments that involving another person in our romantic life right now would be too difficult, so maybe once the kids are a little older and we can have them do a sleepover at a family member's house for the night. Until then, she said we'll just have to make better use of the blindfolds. This was an instant turn-on for me, but any hopes of fun were crushed by our crying baby, so maybe tonight? This question is for her, because I know she's going to read this as soon as I post it. No need to comment on this, Reddit, but I appreciate any support for a yes. Overall, this experience has just reinforced our thoughts on the importance of trust and open communication about everything. I'll take any questions or comments now. Part 3. Altered fictional outcome. Hope everyone's weekend went better than mine, seeing as this was my last Father's Day in a stable home with who I thought was a loving wife. I don't think I could feel any worse than I do now. Many of you tried to warn me as to the potential pitfalls of opening this topic up for discussion with my wife, and now I am falling. I'll just get to it. Weekend started off well. We had a beach trip planned with family and Friday was alright, but Saturday took a turn for the worse. After reading through all the comments and finally deciding on how to bring up the conversation, she was actually the one to bring it up to me. We were taking a walk down the beach while the kids played with the family. The wife said she wanted to see the pier but the kids wanted to stay back building sandcastles with a couple of cousins, so we took advantage of a little alone time for a nice stroll. As we're walking along the shore, and not out of the ordinary, my wife mentions how pretty a couple of women looked that were just cutting in front of us from the water to the sand. She has always been a people watcher, and her mentioning a good-looking person or two while we've been together isn't odd, but now that I know she finds women more than just pretty, I saw this as my opening to touch on the subject. I asked her to hear me out for a moment and proceeded to thank her for opening up to me the other day regarding her attraction to women. I also let her know that I was very curious about the opportunities she mentioned, but I understood if she just wasn't open to talking about them yet. I apologized for bringing it up again, but I told her that it's been on my mind since she mentioned it and she has a right to know my thoughts. She hugged me. And as she held me, she thanked me for not freaking out, but mentioned she'd like to take a break to explore these feelings in full. She said she has been wanting to talk to me about it for years, but was afraid with the more time that passed the harder I would take it. She said she still has feelings for me, that I'm still the father of her children and will always hold a special place in her heart, but that she couldn't truly love me without fully discovering herself. Every fiber of my being felt like I was in some grotesque nightmare. I was quickly descending into a whirlwind of emotional anguish, between the feelings of betrayal and heartache which seemed to grab hold of me as I fell off this ledge and plunged me faster into the dark void. Shattered seems an appropriate word. I was glass and every word of hers was another bullet to my core. She then said, "Hit me with all your questions." And I was, unfortunately, just coherent enough to organize my anger and vitriol into some very pointed questions, like, how long did you plan to string me along? And, did you even think about how this will affect our kids? And was every "I love you" just a lie? She was brutally honest, in return. I'm not going to go into every detail, but essentially she said she understands I may be hurting, so she won't get offended, but she's been planning this for quite some time. She said she's been going to therapy after work when she's told me she needed to stay late, and her therapist finally convinced her to end the facade, with the snowball starting its roll on Thursday when she mentioned her attraction to women. Originally, she wanted to write it out, but the more forbidden her attraction to women felt, the harder it was to contain, until finally she ended up giving in one night with her best friend and they kissed. She says it didn't go past that, but she did confess to her friend that she had feelings for her, but couldn't bring herself to wreck our home. I cannot understand the type of person who can live with all this secrecy. It is shameless and despicable. All the times we talked about how horrible we think cheaters are, and to think she's been one all along. The mother of my children. The woman I planned to spend the rest of my life with, I was beside myself. She said she would keep up the pretense for the kids a while longer, but she'd be making arrangements to stay at her mom's for a time. I all but collapsed onto that hot sand. Just wanted to bury myself and let the lapping waves slowly drown me. I skipped the denial and bargaining stages of grief. I knew she was being honest, at least for the most part, and that my life as I knew it was over. I was mostly angry. At her, at myself, at God, at everyone on this forsaken beach, now becoming the desert in which my love came to shrivel and die. She gave me a kiss on the cheek and asked me what's on my mind. By this time we had been away for what felt like an eternity and needed to head back, but I asked her what I'm supposed to tell our family. She said she would confess to them too. Make sure everyone understands that if there is a bad guy in this story, it's her and not me. But she couldn't go on without being her whole self, and that as hard as this would be, our kids deserve 2 whole parents, not 1.5. I said they're still going to have 1.5 now, because I don't think I'll ever fully recover from this. We went back and forth a bit more, but I settled on divorce. She asked me to stay with her, but I can barely look at her now. I hate myself for not seeing the signs, but not nearly as much as I hate her. I know I'll get over it, and as of this morning I've already been in contact with my lawyer to prepare things. I called out of work for the week, told them it's a family emergency, I just want to hold my kids and cry. Thank you for listening, Reddit. I may do one more update once all this settles, but for now any advice is appreciated. I look forward to all the I told you so comments and DMs, since hating myself feels good right now. I guess I'm right back to my original question. Where the hell do I go from here? Story 9. How my ex's dad cheated on his wife. My ex and I started dating in 2020. His parents were your typical high school sweethearts. His dad, we'll call him Z, was a stay-at-home dad while his mom, we'll call her A, worked at a nearby military base. I spent basically every day with my ex's family, so I got pretty accustomed to them and developed a pretty close relationship with them. The daily routine went like this. Z and my ex would pick me up, we'd start school on our computers, Z would sit with my ex's sisters for a couple hours and around 2 p.m., Z would leave for Walmart. This man spent an ungodly amount of time at Walmart, sometimes going as far as to joke that he was having an affair with Walmart. I didn't pay much attention to it at the time and figured that he was just a bored stay-at-home dad. One day, after coming back from a 3-hour trip, I greeted him and joked, "Hey, how'd the affair go?" Except instead of laughing, the man turned whiter than a ghost and froze in place, just blankly staring at me. I quickly added, "At Walmart, remember?" And he laughed it off and proceeded to make conversation. I was the only person in the living room when this happened, and I figured that my ex and his mom wouldn't believe my suspicions, as I had no concrete evidence besides the hours-long Walmart trips and his change in demeanor. Fast forward a couple of months, Z and my ex's brother left for a road trip, and while he was away, A checked his call and message logs and caught him in the act. Rookie mistake, right? She told Z what she had found over the phone but tried not to make a huge commotion. However, when Z and my ex's brother got home, the tension in the room felt suffocating, with Z standing like a weird mix of a deer in the headlights and a dog with its tail tucked in. The short version of what happened afterwards is this. A and Z tried to work it out for a long time afterwards, but Z never stopped cheating and lying. Some truly crazy things happened, but eventually it ended in a screaming match where Z yelled that he loved the side chick more and that she was better than A in every way. My ex and I broke up a couple weeks after that, so I never got to see what happened after that. It's been a couple years now, and I haven't seen any of them since, but out of curiosity, I did a little internet searching to see how the whole situation played out. Z and A divorced a couple months after the screaming match. A seems to be doing well for herself, she seems happy and has a potential boyfriend. Unconfirmed, but I think. Although still hurt, she seems to be healing alongside her kids. Z abandoned his kids and married the side chick soon after the divorce. She is now pregnant and they seem to be each other's only friend. She routinely disses A on her social media platform. The lesson learned from this story? Side chicks have more audacity than we give them credit for, and insecure men will always be insecure. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give a like, share it with someone, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, provoke, and connect us. Thank you.